Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.
Hey kids, welcome back to the CFL Outsider Week 9. Wow! Just wow. I remain, as always, your 100% impartial, completely unbiased host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Get through a couple of things here. Not a great week for me in fantasy. I had VA, and we'll talk about that. But so where did I end up with? I believe it was 54.8 points in fantasy. I also teamed up VA with Justin McInnes, which turned out wasn't the best move. And in the pick'em, I went 2-2, so I'm now 24-12, right at the 2/3 mark. I missed the Bomber game, which a lot of people did. I missed the Rider game. I didn't see the Elk coming up quite that good. The other two I got, and those were the two more traditional kinds of games. So, I should point out too, if you're new here, if you're looking for something that's going to recap about all the yardage and who got what and who scored the touchdowns and all of that, that's not the kind of podcast this is. So I hope you'll stick around and enjoy anyway, because we talk about the things that are maybe a little less common, that not everybody else is talking about. I figure let the experts talk about what they know, and I'll try and fill in my own little niche here in the CFL ecosystem. And I got to say, this week was two of the games were the CFL at its best. The CFL I've known and loved for years. The games that keep me coming back. You know, that Winnipeg, BC, when a lot of people are saying it was boring because Winnipeg dominated so much, but nobody could see that coming. It came out of nowhere. It was just no way. And then, yeah, they did it. Wow. And then the other one that I really liked was the Saskatchewan Elk game, because it's amazing the difference that a good player like Trey can make, and not just with his skill, but with just the hope he gave that team. Again, fantastic, exciting football. This is what I'm here for. This is the chaos. I'll take it all the time. So we'll get into this stuff here, talk about the games, but before we do, I've noticed that a lot of the other podcasts give some betting advice for the games and that. So I figured I'll add that in after the games and before we get to the extra point. So stick around for that, see if it's any help to you. And that takes us on to our first game of the week, which was BC 0 at Winnipeg 25. Wait, what? Yeah. First thing, I'm just glad I don't gamble on the CFL. I think a lot of people may have lost some money in this one, because the Lions they were flat the whole game. They came out flat. They had no jump in their step. They were coming off a bye. Winnipeg was on a short week, and yet it looked like exactly the opposite way around. And in fact, there was one play that, where did I have it here? The 3:38 mark of the second quarter. So getting down towards the half, where they were already behind some, but to me, it epitomized the whole play of the game. Lions managed to complete a short pass over the middle to Aiden Eberhardt, and he got the curl, turned upfield, went to try and push for some extra yards. There were three defenders there trying to hold him back, and he's pushing for it. When a team's into it, when a team's playing and focused and stuff, anybody near that is going to get behind him and start pushing the scrum and start moving it along and get a few extra yards. In this case, you had Stanback about 6 yards away on one side, and he reacted late, but at least he reacted. He didn't get there. But the one that was really disappointing was you had Justin McInnes standing there 2 feet away from the play, standing and watching it, not even trying to get involved in help. It seemed like their heads just were not in that game whatsoever. You know? And then even the Bombers that are doing good. This is the kind of stuff that I don't like. I figure you're a football player, wrap up a tackle. I don't like these big shoulder hits and stuff. I know they're all over the place. So many people do them. I hate them. And it really bothered me with Winnipeg at one point there. Again, they dominated. Their defense did great, but they had, what is it, Retta Kramdi? I can never pronounce your name properly, Retta. I'm sorry, but Kramdi, I think. Anyway, run up the middle. He came in, had a chance to step in, wrap, and take stand back down for no loss. Instead, he comes flying in and puts a big shoulder into Stanback's hip and legs and lets Stanback run past him and fall forward for another 3 or 4 yards. Good gain on first down, which he could have stopped completely. But instead, went for that big hit. And then after the play, got up flexing. Whoa, 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 look at me. Look at what a big hit I did. Please, get back to your fundamentals. Make the hits. Yes, your Winnipeg defense played great this game. But don't be sloppy just because you're on top of things. And the better you play, the better you're going to be. Don't be sloppy like that. Now, I do have to say, too, as amazing as the Winnipeg defense did play, and even though the offense looked like it was moving the ball and it was fairly solid, they had the ball for, what does it say here that I took down, 41 minutes and 53 seconds. So they had the ball for over twice the time the Lions did. Well, maybe not well over 2/3 of the game, but over 2/3 of the game, and they still only scored 25 points and 1 touchdown. That's iffy to me. That shows there may still be some issues with the offense. If you can't do better than that, then good thing your defense was just flying. Another thing that was obvious with BC is that they weren't prepared for the inside runs to bounce outside. Every time that Oliveira crashed the line tight and then bounced it to the outside, there was no contain whatsoever. That trick field goal that they tried in the second half, when they came down and they were actually marching and had a chance to kick a field goal, get themselves on the board, maybe give themselves some hope. Instead, they go for that silly trick thing that doesn't work out. And that, to me, that just killed any momentum they had. And I knew at that point, I didn't think they were coming back anyway, but I knew at that point the game was effectively over. And I have to say, this is the kind of game where earlier in the season I was ranting to TSN, saying, TSN, give us an all-24 feed, either down in the corner or give us a TSN Plus that we can buy, split screen with the regular feed and the all-24. I would have loved to have the all-24 for this game, because you can't tell on regular television how Bombers were shutting down the Lions like that. I would have loved to have been able to see what that defense was actually doing. But I didn't, so I enjoyed it as much as I could. And let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, I apparently have a brand new superpower. Brand new. Ta-da! I'm the quarterback killer. I'm the fantasy quarterback hex, the curse. 4 weeks ago, I took Cody in the game, the one he got injured in early. He was my captain, he was my quarterback. 2.5 points, doubled to 5 for my total. Then 3 weeks ago, I took VA in that game they had against Calgary, and he did some better than, but he still, what did he end up giving me here? He gave me 12.4 points as captain and quarterback, which doubled up to, 24.8, but still not great. Then last week, I went with MBT. I think we all remember what Hamilton did to him. What was my totals there? Yeah, 1.3 points from him, because he was captain, doubled to 2.6. And then this week, I had VA. 0.1 points, doubled to 0.2 points for being my captain. So there I am. If you've got a quarterback you want hexed this week, you want somebody taken out, let me know. Maybe I'll take some bids, see who's going to pay the most for my new special power. And I guess maybe just my last thought on this game. We haven't seen that Bombers team look like that this season at all. That was offensively, it was good, not great. Defensively, it was outstanding. Special teams were really, really playing well too. So the question is, does that mean that the Bombers are back? Is this where they're going for the rest of the season? And they may be. But I also know that they still are, their core is still aging. And when I was watching this game, the one thing that kept going back through my mind was when I was playing sports, not at their level, of course, but just trying to keep active in my 40s, playing sports, being out there. There was a mantra that I went with. I have to accept I'm not the man I once was, but once I can be as good as I ever was. And I kind of wonder if maybe that's what's happened with the Bombers here. We'll find out as they go ahead the next few weeks. Game 2, Montreal 33 at Hamilton 16. They didn't even need the dribble kick. Few things on this game. James Butler is running as hard as any back in the league. There was one point where basically one-on-one he carried Darnell Sankey for 5 yards, and you don't often see that. I also think that TSN must have forgotten to turn on their curse filters on the on-field mics, because there was a fair bit of mighty blue language getting through in that first quarter. I enjoyed it, but I'm wondering if the more prudish among us may be putting complaints into the Broadcasting Association again. But I also thought that not a terrible amount of them, but the Alouettes took more undisciplined penalties in this one than they generally have. And I don't know what that says. If it's, maybe because of the backup or where it was, I'm not sure. And I've been baffled by Bo this season. I've talked about it a lot, saying he's not as good as he used to be. I don't know, maybe to be honest, when it comes to quarterback mechanics, setting your feet, getting the throw right, that sort of thing, I don't know as much as others do. I know a lot of people that do know a lot, and they say his mechanics are good. He's looking good this season, how he's throwing the ball, he's doing those things, and he is making some just absolute amazing pinpoint throws. Then when he's missing either way short or even way over the heads of their tall new receivers that they've brought in. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. So unless, this is what I'm wondering now, is it's really almost 2 years that he's been working with Milanovic now, at least a full year since they brought him in as a consultant. But is he maybe still just struggling with that offense? Is he just maybe not comfortable in it? Because if he's not at the point where he's reading and then reacting, if he's reading, thinking, and reacting, that might explain the inconsistencies he's showing. So maybe he'll, if he gets better at it, if he gets comfortable in the system, they could turn into a fairly good team. I don't think they'll get to the cup, but they could get to the playoffs and make a bit of noise. And if he can't get it together, then I'm guessing he'll be back with the TSN panel next year, and Bo's on-field activities will be part of his legacy. Or there may be another reason for it too. I don't know if you noticed this. I got hard not to. They had a pre-game interview with him. His helmet was off, and he had these two very prominent veins just running right up here through his temples. And okay, maybe the helmet's a bit tight, something like that. But then I thought, wait a minute, just how intensive is Coach Milanovic's indoctrination process? Could those be lobotomy scars where he's trying to take out everything and add it back in from the start? I'm not serious. What else did I have here? I thought that hit by Casey Sales was completely unnecessary, and while they did get the 25-yard penalty out of it, they should have also had an ejection. No place for that in the game, my opinion. I also I liked the interception KB and Anto had at the start of the fourth quarter on Bo. He baited him. He was falling back off, waiting, and then just no question. He knew where that ball was, and that was pretty. And then my last observation of this game is the fumble, no fumble, could have been a fumble, wasn't a fumble. I'm sure, hopefully, if you're here, you've seen the games, but I'm talking about the one where there was a Hamilton fumble. They ruled it no fumble on the field. The replay showed it was obviously a fumble. The ball was out before the knee came down. They talked about it some more. Then they came back saying that there hadn't been an immediate recovery by Montreal when they got to it about as fast as they possibly could. So anyway, it was a mistake. They happen. I'm trying not to harp on the officials this week. I do it too much, and they are trying their best, I know, but it was a mistake. And the thing is, I believe that it was a gift to a lot of the pundits and writers in the CFL reporting circles, because they just live to use words like egregious without getting, challenged by the editor that they're overhyping things. And that you can call an egregious mistake. Okay, game 3, Edmonton 42 at Saskatchewan 31. What a difference a tray makes. Wow. Hope is an amazing thing. I do want to give a shout out to AJ Allen of the Riders. It was his seal block, just a beautiful seal block, setting the corner and letting Alfred get to the outside on that first kickoff return. Would have been nice for the Riders if they could have kept up that sort of level of play all the way through, but that gets noticed. That was a very nice block. Now I do think, other than that, not a whole lot to hear, because there's a lot that everybody's talking about, so I have less to talk about. But Trey had one interception, which was a bad throw into triple coverage. On the other hand, it was a 42-yard throw that went almost down to the Saskatchewan goal line. They took them fairly deep in their end, so it was really just as good as a punt without any danger of an Alfred return. So, and that way it kind of worked out for them. And the Elk did play very well all the way through, except at the start of the fourth, a little bit, they started to look like they were getting nervous, like they were losing focus, like they were doing the stuff that they've done in the past to give up games. And to their credit, they turned that around. They didn't let it snowball. They got it under control and played out a very good fourth quarter. So, I think things are looking fairly good for them. Trey did look very good in the pocket. Last year, it was like one or two quick reads and then run. That's what I saw from Trey. This year, the run seemed to be when everything else was not there. It was his last choice. And that will do very well. That's going to bode well for where they go. I don't know how they're going to end up the season. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. They could make things really messy for a bunch of the other Western teams that are kind of getting into that mush in the middle with it. The thing is, though, that right now, Trey's an amazing athlete, and he's got game 1 legs when everybody else is on game 9 legs. And that does make a difference. So as he plays the next 3-4 games, starts taking some hits, starts getting worn down a bit himself, he's still going to have a talent advantage just because of the athlete he is. But it's going to diminish some. And what we'll see is how well he's advanced on being able to play from the pocket. What I saw on this last Saturday gives me a lot of encouragement that he's going to do well. I really hope the Elk treat Trey Ford well enough that he's happy to stay there and be their quarterback of the future, because there's a lot to make up with how he's been treated for the last 2.5 years. Anyway, on to game 4. Game 4 we have Toronto 23 at Calgary 27. Calgary East versus Calgary West. And it was a quiet crowd for most of the game. When the Stamps got their push going and finally started putting things together in the fourth, it picked up a bit, but really was a very quiet crowd for a lot of the game. Not what I'm used to hearing from Calgary. And another thing I think deserves special mention, late in the game, 1:31 left in the game, Mike Rose came off of his defensive tackle position there and just ran a beautiful straight power bull rush right back into the quarterback for a sack. That's as pretty as an example of that sort of bull rush power player as I've seen in quite a while. I do think that the way the Aussie punters who've come to dominate that position in the league are able to put a good backspin on the ball so it hits the ground, kicks back, doesn't carry into the end zone, has really got a lot of the returners freaked out. Calgary, I saw it on the weekend, they were catching balls that were traveling they were on the 5-yard line, the balls were over their head and they were catching it rather than taking any chance of hitting the ground and somehow not doing what they wanted. And I've seen that with other teams too. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, how it changes the return game. Let's see, what else did I have here? Oh, I was going to ask me. This might just be me, I don't know. But does anyone else think that Ryan Dinwiddie's kind of morphing into Captain Highliner as the season goes along? And I'm not talking about the new sexy one. No, I mean the old guy. Yeah. What's the first name here? Joshua Courtney. All 395 pounds of him had the same number of kick returns and the same yardage as Cam Eccles at 195 pounds. So maybe the Stamp should be putting the big guy back there as a regular basis for the returns. Don't think that'll happen. Why? Because Mark Killam, and I do have to mention, Mark Killam puts the special in special teams. What a coach. What a special teams coach. And then the last thing that I had to note was, well, second last thing I had to note was there was about I had marked down here, 6:25 left in the game. Toronto was down by, I think it was 4 points at that point. They were marching down the field. They got the ball a little past midfield. They had 2nd and 4. They weren't in field goal range. All they had to do was just keep moving the sticks, get it down there, either get a field goal and try and get the ball back for another one to win the game, or put the touchdown in. But instead, for some reason, they decide to go deep on a ball towards the end zone that gets nowhere near the receiver. 3rd and 4, now they've got a punt, and they never really got a chance to get back in the game after that. I don't understand why offensive coordinators, even ones as good as Ryan Dinwiddie, who is one of the best, I don't understand why they sometimes just decide, oh, this is the point where I'm going to put it all on the line. Or is that the quarterback making a read that the coach didn't want? I don't know, but it was frustrating. And then I guess my last question for this game is Dave Dickenson now officially the angriest coach in the CFL? Alrighty, what else do we have? Oh, like I said, I'm going to add a gambling advice section in just like everybody else does, and then I've got some extra points. So my gambling advice this week in the CFL is don't. Okay? Extra points. This week reminded me, I've been a fan of the CFL for well over 50 years, and sometimes I think I don't understand it any better now than I did when I first started. Things are, in the West, things are definitely starting to mush up in the middle. We're getting these losses coming up now more and more. So, there's not so much separation. We've got BC and Saskatchewan still with the 5 wins, but now we've got Calgary up to 4, and I think, is it Winnipeg at 3? I don't think the Elk will get back in the playoff race unless things go completely amazing with Trey. But the rest of them, it's kind of up for grabs now. It's going to be an interesting last part of the season. And again, this is kind of why people quite often say the CFL season really starts at Labor Day. Yeah, things do kind of even out as you get towards the midpoint, but still winning those games early is a big help. What else do I have for here? Oh, a non-football one, but just because this absolutely amazed me. Listening to some stuff on the weekend, I heard a fellow talking about the marathon. Men's marathon, the world record for it is 2 hours and 35 minutes, I believe. Yes, 2 hours and 35 minutes to run 26 miles, 42 kilometers, and 195 meters. So roughly 42.2 kilometers. If you do the math on that, if you sort of take it out, you realize that you break that thing up into 100-yard dash segments. He is running, this fellow, Kevin Kipturn of Kenya, who holds the record, he is running a 17-second 100-yard dash repeatedly every step of the way. So he's at a pace for 17-second 100-yard dash through a 42.2 kilometer race. Put that into football terms that may be a little more familiar to you. It's like running 1,055 consecutive 6.8 40-meter dashes. 6.8 seconds, 40-meter dash. Keep doing that. No rest for 1,055 of those. That's what this guy is doing. Sometimes the athleticism people just amazes me. That's about all I got for this week. If you've enjoyed this, check out my other two shows. Old Man Plays CFL Pick'em in under a minute, and Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy, although the way I'm doing on those lately, you may not want to take so much advice, but heck, it's worth coming in for a laugh. And other than that, subscribe, please. The button's coming up. Rate, review, all those things that make the almighty algorithm happy. Until next week, get the hell off my lawn!
Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.